Imagine standing at the edge of an enormous crater in one of the most remote deserts on Earth. The air shimmers with intense heat. Flames dance across the entire surface, reaching heights of 15 meters. The roar of burning gas fills your ears. The smell of sulfur and methane permeates the air. And this inferno has been burning continuously for over 50 years. This is not a volcano. This is not a natural phenomenon that has existed for millennia. This is the Darvaza Gas Crater, and it exists because of a single mistake made by Soviet geologists in 1971. The locals call it the door to hell, and when you see it in person, you understand why. Standing 70 meters across and 30 meters deep, this burning crater has become one of the most surreal and haunting destinations on the planet. It's a place where human error collided with the raw power of nature, creating something that shouldn't exist, yet refuses to die. The crater sits in the heart of the Karakum Desert in Turkmenistan, one of the most isolated and least visited countries in Central Asia. Getting there requires a 3-hour drive across trackless desert from the nearest town. There are no roads, no signs, no facilities, just endless sand dunes, and then suddenly, a gateway to an underground inferno. Let's uncover the full story behind this incredible burning phenomenon. We will trace the true history of its creation, explain the geological factors that have kept it aflame for decades, and look at the groundbreaking science taking place inside. Beyond the spectacle, we must address the environmental reality of a crater that has been spewing greenhouse gases for over half a century. Finally, we will examine the government's recent initiative to extinguish the fire and analyze what closing the gates of hell would mean for scientific research, international tourism, and the future of Turkmenistan. To understand the Darvaza Gas Crater, we first need to understand where it is and why this location is so significant. Turkmenistan is a country that most people couldn't find on a map, and that's exactly how the government prefers it. Turkmenistan is a Central Asian nation bordered by Kazakhstan to the north, Uzbekistan to the northeast, Afghanistan to the southeast, Iran to the south, and the Caspian Sea to the west. It's roughly the size of Spain, but with a population of only about 6 million people. And here's the crucial part. Approximately 80% of the country is covered by the Karakum Desert. The Karakum Desert, whose name literally means black sand in Turkic languages, is one of the largest sand deserts in the world, covering about 350,000 square kilometers. Summer temperatures regularly exceed 50 degrees Celsius, while winter nights can plunge below freezing. Annual rainfall is less than 100 millimeters. This is one of the harshest, most inhospitable environments on Earth. But beneath this desolate landscape lies incredible wealth. Turkmenistan possesses the world's fourth largest natural gas reserves, estimated at over 50 trillion cubic meters. Natural gas is absolutely central to Turkmenistan's economy, accounting for roughly 25% of the country's GDP and the vast majority of its export revenues. To put it simply, Turkmenistan's entire modern existence is built on the fossil fuels buried beneath its deserts. This wasn't always understood. For most of human history, the Karakum Desert was seen as worthless wasteland, inhabited only by nomadic tribes and their camels. That perception changed dramatically during the Soviet era. When Turkmenistan was part of the Soviet Union, Moscow recognized the potential wealth hidden underground and launched aggressive exploration programs throughout Central Asia. Soviet geologists fanned out across the Karakum Desert in the 1960s and 1970s, drilling exploratory wells, mapping underground formations, and searching for new gas fields to fuel the Soviet economy. These were large-scale operations involving hundreds of workers, massive drilling equipment, and the kind of industrial ambition that defined the Soviet approach to natural resource extraction. It was during one of these routine exploration missions that something went catastrophically wrong, and the door to hell was born. The year was 1971. A team of Soviet geologists arrived at a promising site in the Karakum Desert, about 260 kilometers north of Turkmenistan's capital, Ashgabat. The location was identified as Darvaza, a tiny village that has since been abandoned. Their mission was straightforward: drill down into the earth, extract core samples, and assess whether this area held commercially viable natural gas reserves. The team set up their drilling rig and began their work. Everything proceeded normally at first. The drill bit deeper and deeper into the desert floor, penetrating layers of rock and sediment. But then something unexpected happened. The ground beneath the drilling rig began to shift. The geologists had unknowingly been drilling directly over a massive underground cavern filled with natural gas. The weight of their equipment, combined with the structural weakness created by their drilling, proved too much. The cavern's ceiling collapsed. In moments, the drilling rig, along with all their equipment and vehicles, vanished into a newly formed crater. Fortunately, no one was killed in the collapse, but the team now faced a different crisis. The crater was approximately 70 meters in diameter and 30 meters deep, and it was releasing enormous quantities of methane and other natural gases into the atmosphere. Now, here's where the story becomes controversial. The commonly told version says the geologists made a decision. They would set the gas on fire. The reasoning seemed sound at the time. Methane is an extremely potent greenhouse gas, about 25 times more effective at trapping heat than carbon dioxide over a 100-year period. If they left the crater venting raw methane, it would be an environmental disaster. Additionally, methane is odorless, and in high concentrations it can be deadly to humans and animals. The geologists believed that burning the gas would convert the methane into carbon dioxide and water vapor, which are less harmful greenhouse gases. More importantly, they assumed the underground gas reservoir would burn out in a matter of days, perhaps a few weeks at most. Once the gas was exhausted, they could safely assess the situation and move on. They were spectacularly wrong. The fire they lit in 1971 is still burning today, over 50 years later. However, I need to mention something important here. This 1971 story has been questioned by researchers and even by some Turkmen officials. Some sources suggest the collapse might have happened in the 1960s or even the 1980s. The exact details are murky because the Soviet Union kept many of its industrial activities classified, and Turkmenistan's current government is notoriously secretive. What we do know for certain is this. At some point during the Soviet era, geologists drilling for natural gas caused a catastrophic collapse that created a crater, and that crater was subsequently set on fire to burn off escaping gas. The flames have never stopped. Standing at the edge today, you're looking at the consequences of a decision made decades ago, a decision whose implications no one could have fully understood at the time. So, why has the Darvaza Gas Crater burned for over half a century? The answer lies in the geology beneath the desert and the sheer physics of the reservoir. The crater sits directly atop a massive natural gas field. This isn't a single bubble. It's an extensive network of porous rock saturated with methane at incredibly high pressure. The gas here is roughly 90% methane. When it hits the surface, it mixes with oxygen and ignites. This chemical reaction produces carbon dioxide, water vapor, and intense heat, creating a self-sustaining loop. The driving force is pressure. The underground gas exists at hundreds of atmospheres. Think of it like a shaken soda bottle. As long as there is pressure inside and a crack in the cap, the contents will force their way out. Here, the crater is the crack, and the reservoir is the bottle. This continuous flow maintains surface temperatures over 1,000 degrees Celsius. The heat is so intense that standing within 20 meters is dangerous, and the glow is visible for kilometers. A common question is, why not just put out? There are two main reasons. Explosion risk. If you extinguish the fire, the gas doesn't stop flowing. It would create an invisible massive cloud of methane that could suffocate nearby wildlife or trigger a catastrophic explosion. Feasibility. The reservoir is too vast for standard capping. Stopping the flow would require complex, dangerous relief well drilling to divert the pressure deep underground. While other eternal flames exist in the world, Darvaza is unique in its scale and human origin. Ironically, this disaster has created a perfect open-air laboratory. Beyond being a tourist spectacle, the Darvaza crater has become an unexpected but crucial scientific laboratory. Researchers realize this door to hell offers conditions impossible to replicate in a normal lab. The most famous study occurred in 2013 when explorer George Kourounis became the first person to descend to the bottom. Wearing a heat-reflective suit, he collected soil samples from the crater floor. He wasn't looking for rocks, he was hunting for life. The results were groundbreaking. Kourounis found bacteria living at the bottom that thrived in the scorching heat and methane-rich soil. These extremophiles didn't just survive the environment, they adapted to consume the methane itself. This has massive implications for astrobiology. Saturn's moon, Titan, has liquid methane lakes. Jupiter's moon, Europa, has subsurface oceans. If life can survive in Darvaza, it suggests life could exist in the harsh environments of our solar system. The crater is essentially an alien planet right here on Earth. For climate scientists, the crater acts as a massive, long-term case study. Methane is a potent greenhouse gas, and Darvaza allows researchers to study how it burns in real-world conditions, affected by wind, pressure, and weather, rather than in a controlled test tube. This open-air laboratory helps improve computer models for global warming and industrial gas flares. It also gives geologists a rare window into the deep subsurface rock layers of the Karakum Desert, helping map the extent of the gas reserves without new drilling. However, getting this data is a struggle. Between the lethal heat, the remote location, and Turkmenistan's strict political entry requirements, few international teams get access. Despite its value to science, the fire remains an open wound in the desert. And now, the government is deciding if it's finally time to close it. While visually stunning, the Darvaza crater is essentially an ongoing environmental disaster. For over 50 years, it has been pumping greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. The real culprit here isn't just CO2, it's unburned methane, which is over 80 times more potent at trapping heat than carbon dioxide in the short term. Estimates suggest the crater produces emissions comparable to a small city annually. Locally, the intense heat has created an ecosystem dead zone where nothing can grow. Recognizing this waste of natural resources, the Turkmen government has repeatedly ordered plans to extinguish the fire, most recently in 2022. Beyond the climate cost, there are serious safety risks. The ground is unstable, air quality is poor, and with absolutely no barriers or emergency services, tourists are standing on the edge of a literal and figurative danger zone. It is a spectacular sight, but one with a heavy price. For decades, the crater was a local secret, but the social media age transformed it into a global phenomenon. The nickname Door to Hell, combined with sci-fi-like visuals, turned a remote accident into a bucket list destination. Despite Turkmenistan being one of the world's most isolated nations with strict visa policies, adventure seekers flock here. The experience is primal, driving across trackless desert to camp right at the crater's edge, sleeping next to the roar of the flames. However, this fame creates a paradox. While the crater is the most recognizable image of Turkmenistan globally, the government views it with mixed feelings. It is a symbol of Soviet-era error that overshadows the country's ancient Silk Road history and modern achievements, creating a strange tension between its tourism value and national identity. In January 2022, President Serdar Berdimuhamedov ordered the crater extinguished, citing the waste of valuable natural gas and health risks. But we've heard this before. Similar orders in 2010 led to zero action. The reason? Putting out this fire is a logistical nightmare. It's not as simple as dumping water on a campfire. To actually stop it, engineers would likely need to drill expensive relief wells to divert the underground gas flow away from the vent, a dangerous operation that could cost millions. While experts have proposed tapping the reservoir for commercial use to starve the fire, no concrete action has been taken. Skeptics argue that despite the tough talk, the government is hesitant to spend a fortune to destroy what is arguably Turkmenistan's only global tourist attraction. Darvaza isn't the only place where the earth burns. From the ancient Baba Gurgur in Iraq to the chimera flames of Turkey, natural gas seeps have been burning for thousands of years, some even inspiring myths of fire-breathing monsters. But Darvaza is in a league of its own. Unlike these natural wonders, Darvaza is an industrial scar, a human-made accident rather than a geological quirk. The difference lies in sheer ferocity. While natural eternal flames are often small, flickering vents, Darvaza is a 70-meter-wide cauldron producing a roaring inferno. It burns with a volume and heat intensity that dwarfs natural seeps, serving as a unique, high-stakes reminder of the unintended consequences of human interference. So, what is the legacy of the door to hell? It began as a mistake in 1971, a temporary solution to burn off methane that has now lasted over 50 years. What was meant to burn for days became a permanent scar on the landscape, visible from space. It is a paradox. Scientifically, it's a rare laboratory for studying life in extreme heat. Culturally, it's a viral icon that put Turkmenistan on the map. But environmentally, it is a disaster, a monument to wasted resources and unintended consequences. Ultimately, Darvaza represents the tension between human ambition and nature's unpredictability. We are left with a difficult choice: seal it to save the environment or preserve it as a unique wonder. For now, the fire continues to burn, a mesmerizing reminder of our footprint on this planet.